Richard Pyatt. Welcome back to Pest PROspectives. It's our pest control advice podcast. Things you should know as it relates to pests from the pest pros of Michigan. One of whom, of course, is Anthony Sorrentino. We call him Tony, Associate Certified Entomologist and expert in pest control. Hello, Tony.
Hey, Richard. Thanks for having me. How we doing?
We're doing great. And we have some really great information in this episode. If you are buying a home or maybe even renting one, when you walk through, what kinds of signs should you be looking for from different sorts of pests? This is really interesting and important. And I would suspect, I'm thinking back on my own history, Tony, about when I've bought houses. I'm all excited and I'm walking through, and it never occurred to me to look for these things. This is incredibly important. What are some of the pests that we might be looking for and some of the signs of that? What's number one on the pest list?
This is a huge topic that a lot of home buyers overlook. And as we moved through COVID, and we moved through all that time of no contact, and people were moving away from getting home inspections before they were buying. And we were in that housing market boom where people, cash offer, I'm coming with it. I got bags of money to buy the house. They were foregoing the pest inspection, the wood destroying insect report, the overall pest inspection, and it can cost them thousands of dollars if you're not careful. So one of the biggest ones that we run into is termites.
Oof. Yeah, this is a little bit scary, and I suppose it should be said, right? I mean, you close, you sign off, you buy that house, the pests are yours.
That's right.
The stroke of a pen. Yeah.
A lot of times people will start doing some type of demolition or some type of where they're renovating the house if it's an aged house and they want to do some updates, and they'll break into that wall, or they want to put a new sliding glass door in, and they got termites clear up to the ceiling. I don't know if you know about termites, but they don't start in the ceiling. The termites that we deal with in Michigan are subterranean by nature, and they're coming up from the ground. And if they're above my head at the slider door, we got a bigger problem.
They've been lower, longer, and they've been making their way up.
Mm-hmm.
How much damage can they really do?
So a mature colony, and that's typically anywhere between 200,000 and 2 million eastern subterranean termites.
Wow.
That's an incredible number, but the colony is huge. They can eat up to a board foot, which is 12 inches of a 2x4. Now, it's never localized. It's never going to be 12 inches of a 2x4. So it's going to be spread out along your baseboard or up your door frame or around your window frames or your floor joists, the sill plate in the basement.
Okay, that makes sense. They're not that neat or orderly, so it won't be 12 inches in a row. It's going to be spread out. But that means the impact is greater, does it not?
Yeah, over time, subterranean termite activity can lead to a loss of structural integrity.
Now, you're talking about the notion that we might do some reno after we buy the house and we find this out. How do we see signs of termites when we're just walking through?
So termites, you're looking for a shelter tube. It looks like a mud tunnel, typically on a foundation wall. You'll see galleries, which is where you can see the termites, where they've consumed the wood and where they've been moving through there. It looks like the grain has been exposed to a deeper level as they've moved through there and consumed the wood. There's that. If you see termite swarmers, when they're in the ground and eating your wood, the workers are all white. When the major reproductives come out in the springtime, they come out by the hundreds and they're black. They look like flying ants, but they differ. If you know what you're looking at, if you got a swarm of flying ants that come popping out on a warm spring day, might not be ants. You might want to call a professional on the double.
Okay. Here's another one. The second on our list, wood-boring beetles. Boy, they like to be like termites, don't they?
Well, so they cause the same type of structural damage where you're gonna lose structural integrity. And typically we see wood-boring beetles in older homes, your 1890s farmhouse. The barn structure will have it. It's typically multiple conducive conditions that lead to a wood-boring beetle infestation. And then again, you can have catastrophic loss of structural integrity.
So, are the signs of wood boring beetles like that of termites? Can you see it walking through?
The wood boring beetles, the signs are a little different. There's going to be pin-sized holes,
Mm.
like the head of a pin size. It's very small, and there will be fine powdery frass. You may see insects, but they're incredibly small. When the wood boring adults emerge, that's where all the damage happens. Is the larval stages are the ones that damage the wood, and when they emerge as adults, their only job is to breed, and then they will reinfest. So it's a problem in Michigan.
And frass is like sawdust. It looks like that.
Absolutely. It's powdery. It's really fine sawdust.
Okay. So you really have to put on your eagle eyes here and be looking for signs like this. I keep thinking about my own experience, which you described very well. I wasn't looking for things like this when I was
No,
buying. Now, rodents. There's the third thing on our list to watch for, a sign that a rodent has maybe brought his friends and began an infestation. This seems like it would be a little easier to spot. Is that true?
right. But again, if you're not sure what you're looking at, or if you're not a trained professional eye, the biggest signs that we see are the droppings, gnaw marks, and nesting materials piled up. You'll move something in the basement, and there's a pile of shredded newspaper there with some fecal matter or maybe some urine around it. You'll see the corners of your garage door chewed out. You'll see claw marks and sebum staining with the body oils as they climb up into the house, and they'll leave a track mark where they've been traveling. Now, all of that, you put it all together and it's a perfect equation. You understand exactly what it is if you know what you're looking at. But again, awareness is the key, especially with mice and rats. They love to chew. They love to chew on wires. It's a rodent characteristic. Their incisors never stop growing. So they're obligated to chew on things, and they will chew on structural building members. They will chew on wiring. They can expose wiring, and then we have a fire hazard. It gets out of control quick.
All right. Those signs maybe are a little easier than frass to
Mhm.
see. But as you point out, boy, you really got to be watching and be mindful. Now, there's also wildlife. That's the fourth thing on our list to watch for before you close or sign that lease. Maybe squirrels or bats, things like that.
Right. And so that's where you're going to want to do the exterior inspection. You're going to want to look for signs of squirrels, chewed up soffits or damaged vent screens. For bats, you're going to want to look for signs of guano in the attic or near attic vents or chimneys where the chimney meets the side of the house, the soffit right there.
Mm.
In the attic, you're going to look for a strong ammonia-like smell, and that's a telltale sign that something's going on in your attic. Again, call a professional. Don't try to go up there. There are public health risks associated with mice, rats. I don't think squirrels as much, but definitely with bats.
Absolutely. Does a typical home inspection by a professional home inspector reveal some of these things, or would generally speaking, a home inspector say, you got to call a pest control expert because I see things?
That's a really good question. So some home inspectors are trained or know what they're looking for, and they will disclose. Other home inspectors might step over it, like it's not my job. So
Hmm.
really, it depends on the integrity and the thoroughness of the inspector that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rely on a structural specialist, a structural inspection specialist to give me a pest inspection. I want a pest control company, somebody that knows what they're doing to do my inspection because they've got the trained eye. I wouldn't go to a car mechanic to get my hair cut, you know?
Good point. So before closing, then we might want to request a pest inspection of the seller or the
Mhm.
landlord. Is that a fair assumption then?
There's non-wood destroying pests, non-critical pests. In my mind, critical pests are anything that causes damage, disease, or discomfort, right?
Sure.
It's going to cause damage to the structure. It can spread diseases or it can cause discomfort. Like in the case of bed bugs, right? It's going to cause me discomfort. Or hornets. Hornets are a critical pest because they sting me. And
Yeah.
so that's a critical pest because if I'm allergic. So we've got critical pests that have been found. during a routine WDI inspection, when I'm doing a wood destroying insect inspection and we come up on bed bug activity or we see something, it's my job. That won't go on the wood destroying insect report, but it will get disclosed because it's going to get disclosed to my client, who is the person who hired me to do the inspection, and the buyer's agent or whoever else may be, on their team.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you have a decision to make whether or not to proceed, I suppose, if there is an infestation of some kind. But certainly a home inspection by a pest control expert can begin to look for things that maybe we might not see in our casual pass through, or even a more detailed pass through. I'm thinking again about myself, what I have known if I saw some of these clues that you've talked about. I'm not sure I would. I would wager some buyers or tenants would also not really know that. So this kind of inspection could prove to be very useful. And then, of course, if it is serious, you have a choice to make about whether or not you want to walk away or negotiate and continue to pursue this particular residence. But boy, these are really good things to think about. And of course, if folks want more information or they want a Pest Pros inspection, you do these, right? All they have to do is get on your
All they
radar.
got to do is call. It's 269-993-0051.
993-0051, area code 269, Pest Pros of Michigan. The Pest Prospectives podcast is where you find podcasts. Search it and subscribe. We're bringing you a number of good episodes with great information about some of the pests and approaches and things that you should know living with pests or near them. Tony Sorrentino, thank you for this update.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.